He thought he was their guest, but they had very different plans. Captain Elias Ward's fingers flew across the failing navigation console as warning lights bathed the cockpit in crimson. The Starseeker's engines sputtered, gravity systems fluctuating as the small exploratory vessel plummeted toward the uncharted moon. "Mayday, Mayday. This is Captain Ward of the Earth Science Vessel Starseeker," he shouted into the comms, knowing the signal would never reach Earth from this distance. "Ship systems critical after passing through unknown energy field. Attempting emergency landing on satellite body of Proxima Centauri b." The verdant moon, designated only as PCB3 on his charts, rushed up to meet him. A swirl of emerald forests and turquoise lakes. Elias gripped the manual controls, sweat beading his brow as he fought for any semblance of a controlled descent. "Come on, old girl," he muttered. "Just a little longer." The Starseeker screamed through the atmosphere, hull plates glowing hot as Elias aimed for a clearing amid the dense canopy. Impact was inevitable. He braced himself as the ship plowed through treetops, the horrible screeching of tearing metal overwhelming his senses before darkness claimed him. When consciousness returned, it came in fragments. Cool fingers against his burning forehead, the scent of something like lavender but sharper, melodic voices speaking in a language that sounded like flowing water. Elias forced his eyes open, blinking against the soft purple light filtering through high windows. He lay on something resembling a bed, though it seemed to conform perfectly to his body, more like living material than any fabric he knew. "He wakes," said a voice, the words strangely comprehensible despite their foreign cadence. 3 figures moved into his field of vision, and Elias felt his breath catch. They were unmistakably female, yet clearly not human, tall and willowy, with skin that shimmered with subtle iridescence like mother of pearl. Their eyes were large, slanted upward at the corners, in shades of gold, violet, and deepest green. The one with violet eyes stepped forward, placing a cup of luminescent liquid to his lips. "Drink, Star Traveler," she said. "I am Siran. You are safe now among the Valari." "My ship," Elias croaked after swallowing the sweet, revitalizing liquid. "Broken," said another, her golden eyes examining him with open curiosity. "Like you were. I am Nyella, healer of our settlement. We found you in the wreckage," added the third, her green eyes more wary than those of her companions. "Talus brought you to our settlement when Saran insisted we save you." Elias tried to sit up but found his body uncooperative. "Thank you for rescuing me." "I'm Captain Elias Ward from Earth." "Earth," Saran repeated, the word sounding like poetry in her voice. "So far. Rest now, Elias of Earth. Your body needs time." Over the following days, as strength gradually returned to his limbs, Elias learned that the Valari were the dominant species on this moon they called Nereith. They lived in harmony with the lush environment, their dwellings seamlessly integrated into the massive trees that dominated the landscape. Saran visited him most frequently, bringing food and sharing stories of their world. Something in her violet gaze held him captive, a depth of emotion he couldn't fathom. She seemed particularly interested in his tales of Earth, asking countless questions about his home and his solitary mission of exploration. "You travel between stars alone?" she asked one evening, her head tilted in fascination. "The void between worlds must be lonely." "Sometimes," Elias admitted. "But there's freedom in solitude." Saran's expression grew thoughtful. "The Valari believe no one should face the universe alone." Her slender fingers briefly touched his, sending an unexpected warmth through his recovering body. "Perhaps fate brought you to Nereith for a reason, Elias Ward." Little did he know how prophetic those words would prove to be. 2 weeks after his crash, Elias stood on the balcony of his recovery chamber, watching the twin moons of Proxima Centauri b rise above the forest canopy. His strength had largely returned, though Nyella insisted he continue her regimen of medicinal teas and gentle exercise. The Valari settlement, a living architecture of shaped trees and bioluminescent fungi, pulsed with activity below. Elias had learned that the Valari were primarily female, with males being rare and revered for their role in continuing their species. This explained the curious looks he received whenever he ventured from his quarters. "You are restless tonight," came Saran's melodic voice from the doorway. Elias turned, still struck by her otherworldly beauty. "Just wondering when I'll be able to assess the damage to my ship." I should begin repairs. Saran approached, her iridescent dress catching the purple moonlight. Talus reports that much of your vessel remains intact. But its heart is damaged. The quantum drive, Elias sighed. Without it, I can't leave Nereith. Something flickered across Saran's expression. Relief? Perhaps that is not such a terrible fate. She placed a small wooden bowl beside his bed. This is for you. Inside lay a pendant, an oval stone that shifted colors like the Valari skin, suspended on a cord of woven silver. It's beautiful, Elias said, lifting it. What's the occasion? It marks the 15th cycle of your rebirth, Saran replied cryptically. Wear it tomorrow for the gathering of souls. Before he could question her further, she departed, leaving only her lingering scent of exotic flowers. That night, Elias woke to whispers outside his door. Creeping closer, he recognized Saran's voice engaged in intense discussion with Talus. The binding cannot be forced, Talus insisted. If he discovers our intention before choosing freely, he will choose, Saran interrupted. I have seen it in the pools. No outlander has ever completed the ritual. His nature may reject the binding. His life belongs to us by sacred law. The marks have been made, Elias stepped back, heart racing. The marks. Strange symbols he'd noticed appearing near his door, around his windows, even etched into his food bowls. He'd assumed they were decorative, but now... The next day, Elias attended the gathering wearing Saran's pendant. The ceremony took place in a massive hollow tree at the settlement's center. Hundreds of Valari sat in concentric circles around a pool of luminescent water. Saran guided him to a place of honor beside her. Throughout the ritual, Valari approached the pool in pairs, pressed their foreheads together, and spoke words that caused the water to momentarily glow brighter. What are they doing? Elias whispered. Renewing their soul bonds, Saran explained. Among the Valari, no one walks alone. Each is bound to another through mutual choice and ceremony. Like marriage, more profound. It is a sharing of essence. Those who save a life are privileged to offer such bonds. A cold realization washed over Elias as he fingered the pendant at his throat. Not a gift, but a marker, a claim. Later, when Niella came to check his healing progress, Elias confronted her. What does it mean to repay life with life? He asked directly. Niella froze, her golden eyes widening. Who spoke these words to you? No one needed to. I'm beginning to understand your language. It wasn't entirely true, but the fragments he'd pieced together painted a disturbing picture. I was never just a guest here, was I? Niella sighed, setting down her healing implements. The Valari believe that to save a life creates an imbalance in the universe. Such debts must be repaid. By binding my soul to one of you, Elias felt a surge of anger. Without my knowledge or consent? The choice is always yours, Niella said quietly. But Saran has already chosen you, and the elders have approved her claim. It is a great honor. She is of the highest lineage. Honor or not, on Earth we don't claim people. Niella's expression hardened slightly. Then perhaps you should ask yourself why you still wear her pendant. Elias's hand automatically went to the stone at his throat. He hadn't taken it off, even after suspecting its significance. Something about it, about Saran, had already begun to bind him in ways he couldn't explain. The following morning, Elias hiked through the forest toward the crash site, needing distance to clear his thoughts. Talus had reluctantly provided directions after he'd insisted on assessing the damage himself. The Starseeker lay half-buried in rich soil, its hull breached in multiple places. Plants had already begun colonizing the wreckage, vines snaking through broken viewports. They work quickly here, he muttered, ducking inside through the twisted airlock. The ship's interior was in better condition than he'd feared. Life support was irreparable, but the communications array and navigation computers might be salvageable. The quantum drive, however, was a lost cause. Its containment field shattered. Exotic particles long since dissipated. You cannot leave Nereith. Elias spun around to find Saran standing in the doorway, sunlight catching the pearlescent highlights in her silver hair. You followed me, he accused. I protect what is mine, she replied simply. That's the problem right there. I'm not yours. Elias tore the pendant from his neck, holding it out to her. You saved my life and I'm grateful. But where I come from, that doesn't make me your property. Saran took a step closer, ignoring the pendant. You misunderstand. The soul binding is not ownership, it is completion. Two beings choosing to walk as one through the cosmos. But I never chose this. You decided without even telling me. I chose to offer, she corrected. You must choose to accept. But yes, I should have explained sooner. Her violet eyes held genuine regret. I feared you would reject our ways without understanding. Then help me understand, Elias said, lowering his hand with the pendant still clutched in his fist. What exactly does this binding entail? Saran moved past him to touch the ship's damaged console. Your kind values freedom above connection. Ours values connection above all. The binding joins two souls in a way that transcends physical proximity. Thoughts, feelings, experiences all become shared. That sounds invasive. It can be beautiful, she countered. Never alone, even across vast distances. Complete understanding without words. But, she added, turning back to him, it is permanent. And between different species, unprecedented. Elias studied her, this alien woman who had saved him, cared for him, and apparently chosen him for something profound. Despite his anger at the deception, he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward her. Why me? He asked finally. There must be others more suitable. Saran's expression softened. When we found you barely alive, I touched your mind to assess your injuries. In that moment, I glimpsed something rare, a soul that echoes mine, though formed in a distant world. She approached slowly until they stood mere inches apart. The Valari believe such resonance is the universe's rarest gift. She reached up, her cool fingers tracing the line of his jaw with gentle curiosity. The contact sent an electric current through Elias's body, awakening sensations he'd never experienced. I feel it even now, she whispered. Don't you? He did. Despite every rational objection, every human instinct warning against such alien intimacy, Elias felt drawn to Saran in ways that defied explanation. Whether cultural fascination, alien biochemistry, or something deeper, the connection between them was undeniable. The binding ceremony occurs in 3 days, Saran said, stepping back. If you choose to refuse, we will still heal your wounds and help you build a life here. Your debt will remain, but no one will force its payment. She turned to leave, then paused. But know this, Elias Ward. What grows between us is rare even among my people. In 9 centuries, I have never offered binding to another. As Saran disappeared into the forest, Elias looked down at the pendant still clutched in his hand. Its colors swirled in patterns that seemed to match his turbulent emotions. With a sigh, he slipped it back around his neck and returned to examining his broken ship, a vessel that had once represented freedom, but now felt increasingly like an escape he no longer desired. The days before the binding ceremony passed in a blur of conflicting emotions for Elias. He spent mornings attempting to salvage components from the Starseeker, afternoons learning more about Valari culture, and evenings in Saran's company as she revealed the true nature of what he was considering, although binding creates a bridge between minds, she explained, as they walked through phosphorescent gardens that illuminated the twilight. At first, only strong emotions travel across it. With time and proximity, the connection deepens. Can it be broken? Elias asked, watching how the bioluminescent flowers seemed to brighten as Saran passed. Only by death, she answered solemnly, which is why choice must be absolute. They stopped beside a small reflecting pool. The water rippled, though nothing had touched its surface, responding to Saran's presence in ways Elias couldn't comprehend. Show me, he said suddenly. Saran's eyes widened. The connection? It isn't possible before. Not the full binding, just a glimpse. I need to know what I'd be agreeing to. She hesitated, then nodded. There is a way. A temporary thread, a shadow of the true bond. She took his hands in hers. Close your eyes. Elias obeyed, feeling slightly foolish until Saran began to sing. The melody was unlike anything he'd heard. Notes that shouldn't exist in human music. Vibrations that seemed to resonate inside his bones. Her cool fingers tightened around his. Then it happened. A warmth bloomed in his mind, carrying with it impressions that weren't his own. The wonder Saran had felt upon first seeing stars from Nereith's highest peak. Her loneliness despite being surrounded by her kind. The shock of recognition when she'd first touched his injured mind after the crash. Most powerful was a current of emotion he couldn't name, something beyond human, experience yet unmistakably akin to longing, to belonging. When she released his hands and the connection faded, Elias found himself breathless. That was just a fraction of the bond, he whispered. The faintest echo, Saran confirmed, her own voice unsteady. The true binding is exponentially deeper. Later that night, Nella sought him out as he stood on his balcony, still processing the experience. Saran shared the preliminary connection with you, she stated, her golden eyes reflecting starlight. It wasn't a question. Yes, does everyone know everything around here? Such connections ripple through our community, Nyella said without apology. I come to warn you, Captain Ward. While Saran has lived 9 centuries, she is young in understanding human nature. And you're not? I have studied the few humans who ventured to Proxima Centauri before you. None stayed, but all left impressions. She moved closer, her expression grave. The binding between Valari is profound but predictable. Between different species, especially one as individualistic as humans, the consequences cannot be foreseen. You're saying it's dangerous? I'm saying it will change you both in ways neither can anticipate. What makes you human may be diluted. What makes her Valari may be compromised. Nyella placed a hand on his arm. The first bond between different species will create something entirely new. Before Elias could respond, a commotion rose from the settlement below. Lights flared as Valari gathered around a returning party. Talus returns, Nyella explained. She led the effort to recover usable parts from your vessel. Elias rushed down to the central gathering space where Talus was directing the unloading of salvaged technology. Among the components, he recognized the Starseeker's emergency beacon and auxiliary power cells. We can combine these with our energy crystals, Talus told him when he approached. A modified communication device could potentially reach your Earth vessels, if any patrol the outer reaches of your solar system. The implications struck Elias like a physical blow. I could signal for rescue. Talus nodded, her green eyes unreadable. It would take perhaps 2 of your Earth years for help to arrive. But yes, eventually you could leave Nereith. That night Elias couldn't sleep. He paced his chamber, weighing impossible choices. Return to Earth, to duty, familiar stars, and his own kind, or bind himself forever to an alien woman in her mysterious world? The pendant Saran had given him seemed to pulse against his chest, almost as if it sensed his dilemma. Outside his window, the lush forests of Nereith whispered with night sounds unlike any on Earth, beautiful in their strangeness, like Saran herself. By morning, though he'd barely slept, Elias knew his mind was made up. There was only one choice that felt right, though whether from alien influence or his own heart he couldn't say. Perhaps it no longer mattered. The binding ceremony was held at dusk, when both of Nereith's moons hung low in the sky. The entire settlement gathered in a natural amphitheater formed by ancient tree roots, creating tiered seating around a central platform illuminated by floating lights. Elias wore ceremonial Valari garments, flowing fabrics in deep blue that complemented his human coloring. His pendant, now glowing with inner light, rested prominently against his chest. As he waited at the edge of the gathering, Nyella approached with a final warning. It isn't too late, she murmured. Talus has begun constructing the communication array. Your path home remains open. Elias watched as Saran entered from the opposite side, radiant in silver robes that matched her hair. The crowd parted respectfully before her. Look at her, Nyella, he said quietly. In all my explorations, I've never discovered anything as wondrous as her, as this world. You speak from fascination, not understanding, Nyella cautioned. Maybe, Elias smiled, or maybe understanding comes after choice, not before. When the ceremony began, Elias and Saran stood facing each other on the central platform. An elder Valari with pearl-white hair conducted the ritual, speaking first in the flowing Valari language, then translating for Elias. 2 souls meet across the void of stars, she intoned. One life given freely demands another in return. Balance must be maintained. Saran took Elias's hands in hers. I, Saran of the High Canopy, choose to bind my essence to Elias of Earth. His thoughts will be my thoughts. His joy my joy. His pain my pain, until the universe reclaims our energy. The elder turned expectantly to Elias. He took a deep breath, aware of hundreds of Valari watching in silent anticipation, and one particular pair of violet eyes that held the mysteries of a world he was only beginning to comprehend. I, Captain Elias Ward of Earth, choose to bind my essence to Saran of Nereith. The words came naturally, as if he'd known them all his life. Her thoughts will be my thoughts, her joy my joy, her pain my pain, until the universe reclaims our energy. The elder nodded, satisfied, and produced a small knife of iridescent crystal. With ceremonial precision, she made shallow cuts on both their palms. Instead of red, Saran's blood shimmered with the same pearlescent quality as her skin. Blood of different worlds, the elder declared as she pressed their wounded palms together, now to flow as one. The moment their blood mingled, Elias gasped. The preliminary connection he'd experienced days before had been nothing compared to this. Saran's consciousness crashed into his like an ocean wave. Memories, emotions, sensory experiences unlike anything human nerves could process. He saw Nereith through her eyes, colors beyond the human spectrum, energy patterns in living organisms, the subtle communication network between plants that humans had only theorized. He felt the weightlessness of swimming through Nereith's deepest lakes, the exhilaration of riding thermal currents through its skies. Most profound were Saran's emotions, her centuries of searching for a connection that transcended the polite bonds of her kind, her shock at finding resonance with an alien being, her fear that he would reject the bond and leave her to another millennium of elegant isolation. Through their joined hands, Elias knew she experienced a similar flood, the cramped excitement of his first spaceflight, childhood memories of Earth's oceans, the proud loneliness of deep space exploration, his growing fascination with her world and his deepening feelings for her. The crowd gasped collectively as the platform beneath them began to glow with unprecedented brightness. The elder stepped back, her expression showing both awe and concern. "It is done," she announced, though uncertainty tinged her voice. "What the universe has joined cannot be severed." That night in Saran's quarters high in the living canopy, Elias experienced the physical culmination of their bond. Their bodies, so different in origin yet compatible in ways neither had anticipated, moved together in a dance of discovery. Her cool skin warmed beneath his touch, his human senses heightened through their mental connection. When they lay together afterward, watching Nereith's moons through the translucent ceiling, Elias felt her thoughts brushing against his, no longer the overwhelming flood of the ceremony, but a gentle current of shared consciousness. "Something unexpected happened during the binding," Saran murmured against his shoulder. "The elders are concerned. The platform's reaction? More than that." She traced patterns on his chest, following the flow of energy she could now see within him. "The bond between us is stronger than any in our records. Already I feel changes within myself, new perspectives, altered perceptions." Elias nodded. "I feel it too. I'm seeing colors that shouldn't exist, sensing things beyond normal human awareness." Saran propped herself up to study his face. "The elders believe we've created something new, neither fully human nor fully Valari. A bridge between worlds. Are they afraid? Change always brings fear." She smiled, touching his face with newfound familiarity, but also possibility. 6 months later, Elias stood before the completed communication array. Talus had fulfilled her promise, creating a device capable of reaching Earth vessels. His finger hovered over the activation switch. Behind him, Saran waited, now visibly changed by their bond. Her once silver hair had darkened to match his brown, while subtle shifts in her facial structure made her appear almost like a human Valari hybrid. Elias knew he too had changed. His skin now carried a faint iridescence in certain light, and his perception had expanded beyond human limitations. Through their bond, he felt her calm acceptance of whatever choice he would make. The depth of their connection meant physical separation. Even returning to Earth would not sever what they shared. "We could go together," he suggested. "Not for the first time. Earth would welcome a peaceful first contact. Or we could stay," she countered, "and welcome others who might follow your path to the stars." Elias looked up at Nereith's vibrant sky, then back to the woman who had forever altered his existence. With deliberate movement, he deactivated the array's power source. "The universe brought us together for a reason," he said, taking her hand, perhaps to build a bridge greater than either of us imagined. Through their bond, he felt her joy mirroring his own, an emotion that transcended their different origins, creating something entirely new in the space between worlds. Above them, the twin moons of Nereith cast their light across the forest canopy, illuminating a path neither had anticipated but both now chose to walk together. A borrowed light from distant stars, guiding two souls, joined as one. The end.